I'm going to tie in everything we've learned so far, kind of stacking up all that we've learned. Like we've learned all that foundational stuff. And now we're just going to build on those foundations using the skills we talked about throughout the course, but also throughout module 4, which was really content heavy. So I want to make sure it's practical and just makes sense for you guys. So we talk a lot about mindfulness and how for us parenting, when we feel out of control, that sense of anxiety and sense of worry comes in. And what happens next? It leads to us trying to control our situation. So the reason why we talk about body scans, mindfulness, and body-based awareness, that interoception, is because it usually starts with that's a foundation for our actions. So this internal sense of control or lack of control will lead to an external push for control. So this is our brain's natural coping response to when we're feeling out of control. So, for example, I used to worry a lot about Jimmy. Will he ever make friends? Or um, with the current school that he was at, is this the right school for him? And a lot of times there was that self-doubt that came in the answer was no, or when I thought the answer was no. And that negative projection I would negatively project his future or put that negative projection on him. And then he would act out of that negative projection. So here's what micromanaging looked like, for me. So coaxing, we're going to go to school today. Bribing, I'll give you candy if you go to school. Nagging, if you don't go to school, we'll lose this. Threatening, yelling, punishing, constant reminding for homework, things like that. And what happens next? There's a negative feedback cycle or a negative cycle that happens. So I worry about whether or not he can do something. Then I start to impose my control on him, which leads to resentment from him, resistance, disempowerment. And what happens when someone feels disempowered? Well, we just talked about that with us. When we feel a lack of control or an anxiety, we push for control. And so for our kids, they push for control. It becomes a power struggle. Um, School, homework, chores, all of that can become a power struggle because in our mind, we may be fearful that they're not going to do what we ask or that they're not able to. And so that micromanaging leads to discouragement for them, a lack of skill building, independence. And part of that comes from us not allowing them the opportunity to make mistakes sometimes. So, Angela, can I use the example of Richie with the Legos? Just give me a thumbs up if that's okay.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So Richie was building something, and Angela saw that it was not going to work. There was this very narrow foundation, and he was building a heavy something on top, and it broke, and it led to him crying for a very long time. And for Angela, the anxiety was this can go two ways. He can get over it, or this will mess up our entire evening. Everything after that will have this snowball effect of now dinner's not going to be right. Now this isn't going to be right. And so I want to notice there's that anxiety and worry there of what if things go south. The thing is, anxiety and fear is not bad. It's there for a reason. It's our body's red flag. Just like our car has a dashboard, when the engine light turns on, it's a cue to our body. Something needs to happen. We need to notice this, check it, make sure everything's okay, and then keep going. Same thing with anxiety and fear. The problem is when we stay there, we get stuck there, then we don't move forward in a way that's adaptive or skillful. So we talk a lot about the nervous system, fight or flight. When we're up there in fight or flight, it's literal survival. We get rigid, we get scan for dangers, threats, we get hypervigilant. Instead of when we're in that rest or digest phase, then we're curious, we are more connected socially, and we are more creative in problem solving. So, Angela, I love when you texted me in that moment and just asked for feedback and troubleshooting because that's perfect. You were connected. You were trying to work your way out of that anxiety. Like you noticed it and then you tried to problem solve. Okay, what can I do about this? And we kind of talked about it. And you did what we have been talking about. You validated Richie, and then you gave him the space to move through those hard feelings. And then what happened next? He came out very playfully with tissue plastered all over his face from his tears and in his body from the snot that glued it to his body. So the win in that was, oh my gosh, you worked through those emotions. You were present with him and you still gave him space and you gave him the sense of confidence in him that I know you can work through this. And he did, which was so neat. So versus if you had said, kept on going, hey, I can help you with this. Let me help you. I can do this. Let me help you. Let me help you. That would have been micromanaging.
Or in the past, what I would do is, I mean, I hate to say it, but I would have been like, this is stupid. This is just a Lego. Why are you acting like it's the end of the world?
Exactly. Exactly. So all these things are really key, like these insights you're building, not just for him, but for yourself. That's so key. It's going to be the foundation that everything just kind of keeps stacking on. So awesome work there. I thought about that as I was putting together this lesson. But other things we tend to worry about: will my kid choose good friends? Will they have good friendships? Will they do well academically? Will they make good choices even when I'm not around? All those questions are good to have, and we need to also make sure that it's not from an anxiety standpoint that we're viewing those things, but more of a neutral or a my child is capable of this with the right supports. Because the thing is, when we ask those questions from anxiety, we project the negative onto our kids, and then they act out of that negative. So, some ways to safeguard against micromanaging. I have 6 steps, guys. 6 steps to safeguarding from micromanaging. First thing is focus on yourself, just like Angela, you said, we talked about just now, and then your child. So, the first few steps are about you. The first one is notice how your anxiety shows up. So, what we talked about before was do a body scan. This is doing a bottom up approach. So, module 4, we talked about bottom up, which is the body, and versus top down, which is starting with the mind cognitively. So, anxiety tends to show up for all of us in different ways. So, for me, tension in my neck, I get a tingly feeling. I call it my spidey sense. It might be your jaw stiffening, uh, your forehead furrowing, your entire body tightening up, stiffening. Maybe your hands get pretty tight, falling up. All those things, it sounds silly, but that first insight makes a big difference. Sort of, again, like the on the dashboard, the lights showing up is cueing you. Because when you think about feelings, those are abstract labels. I feel anxious right now. I feel nervous right now, especially for your kids who are younger and not always aware of, or maybe they don't have the vocabulary to name those feelings. So, what we're doing is we're doing for ourselves the same thing we're asking our kids to do. We're paying attention to our body. So, noticing how anxiety shows up or how those feelings show up. And then and then we're doing the top down approach. So after you notice your body, then you're noticing your thoughts and your language. So, Angela, exactly what you said. You used to say, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. This response is not, the situation doesn't warrant the response. So, those were all of your thoughts that were either negative or not helpful. And also, how you looked at the Lego situation, it could go both ways. So, the negative way would have been catastrophizing. So, you notice that, but then you also notice that we're going to try this anyway, and we're going to try to build skill here. So keep those 2 things in mind: bottom up approach with your body scan, top down approach with your thoughts. In module 1, I talked about the thoughts, feelings, and behavior cycle. All of that is like a feedback loop. The way you perceive a situation is going to be the way you respond to it, and it could be skillful or not skillful, helpful or not. So after you notice those thoughts, if they're negative or not helpful, put a reframe on it, positive reframe. So, also called cognitive reframe. Look at that thought and dissect it. Is this helpful right now? It only takes a few seconds to think about this. Is this helpful? So for my son, a lot of times when we'll have the same challenges, sometimes my thought is, we're dealing with this again. How many times will it take until we're past this? That's not a helpful situation. So putting a positive reframe on that. And I will tell myself it takes as long as it takes. He is learning right now, and I am going to be consistent in teaching him that skill no matter how long it takes. So module 4, we talked about neuroplasticity and how many repetitions, how it takes repetition to build a skill. And I have to visualize that picture sometimes. I'm visualizing that connection being made. That positive reframe, there's for every negative thought, catch it and shift it. That helps so much in how you respond to your child in a way that supports them and builds skills. So again, those positive reframes, it takes as long as it takes. My child is not giving me a hard time. They are having a hard time. My child is not trying to be disrespectful. He's dysregulated. Come up with your own phrases and let that be your go-to in the moment. And the more you practice it, the more you'll recall it in those moments, especially when you have these intense emotions or challenging situations like the one you described, Angela. Another 2 more questions I like to ask that helps me with a positive reframe is, hang on, let me let Christine in the room. Hey, Christine.
Sorry for the lateness. Happy
It's
Friday.
okay. Thanks. We were just talking about parenting with anxiety and how that can lead to micromanagement.
Sounds like me.
I might pull in some examples of you. um, but we're okay. So we were talking about using mindfulness to detect anxiety in our body. We were talking about using uh, also mindfulness to focus on those thoughts and those negative thoughts that come to our mind, and then shifting it using positive reframe and noticing where those thoughts lead us. Sometimes if it's the negative thought, then and we're staying in that with those negative thoughts, it can lead to parent takeover. So we try to do something for our child, and then we take away the opportunity for them to learn the skill. I'll give a great example. So my friend and neighbor, she has an adult daughter now, 18 years old, and I love her. She does parent from anxiety, and she's a big micromanager. So her daughter found herself in a relationship that was very unhealthy. The boyfriend was taking advantage, asking for a lot of money, and my friend, her question was, will my daughter will be able to make the right choices? Will she be able to stand up for herself? And her concern led to her being very controlling over her daughter in her relationship with her boyfriend. And so finally, one day, her daughter was ready to make the choice to. Her daughter saw that this was not a good guy, and unfortunately, did not feel capable of advocating for herself. So she asked her mom to write the breakup text for her, and my friend did that. And after she sent the text, she just had a lot of self-doubt and just felt terrible. Of course, breakups feel bad anyway, but there was a sense of not having closure for her. And when we don't allow our children to take those opportunities to do things the wrong way, even if it's her sending the text herself and not wording it the way we would have wanted to word it, it would have been her choice. It would have been her action that she could have had ownership over. She could have felt a sense of empowerment. She could have noticed what she could have done differently after the fact. But because my friend micromanaged and told her what to do, what to say, how to say it, it took away all those opportunities for building self-advocacy, which is such an important skill for our kids. So that's just an example of that. Number 2, let me make sure I have that right. Yep, number one was doing a self-assessment. Number two was, now that we have that self-assessment of our bodies and our thoughts, use strategies for our own self-regulation. So the mindfulness activities listed in module one, whether it's journaling, getting outside, taking a short walk, breathing, all those are self-regulation strategies you can do outside of the moment and during the challenging moment. With parenting, there's ups and downs with anxiety, with positive interactions. And so the more we can practice that out of the moment, the more we can recall that in those challenging moments. Another one was the TIP strategy, TIPP. T is for, why am I drawing a blank? Temperature. So in the moment, anything cold, ice compress or cold compress to your face, your temples, wrist, all of that kind of regulates your body, your heart rate, and can help you to get to that rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system better. And then I for intense exercise. It could be a quick jog. There's been moments where I've been so upset with my kids, and it took everything, all self-control, not to yell or use force, that I would literally say, I'm going to take a break and I will go and do some push-ups and come back. And I have, and it helps. We're not asking for permission or perfection for you guys to go from completely upset to calm and zen. We're just trying to burp the soda pop bottle, that graphic I showed you before, just kind of like decrease the intensity a bit. And then sensory strategies, we also talked about that in module 4. Christine, I'll notice for you like things, a sense of smell. You kind of gravitate to things that smell good. That's calming for you. Also auditory, you like those candles with the wooden wick things that make that crackly sound. When you talk about it, even just talking about it, you get really, really calm. Like I can sense this calmness over you. Leslie, you have this, I see you gravitating towards tactile. I see you twirling your hair when you're talking on the phone, writing notes, or when you're talking about things that are soft, you kind of get a calmness over your voice. Angela, I don't have you pegged just yet, but I think you're a visual seeker because you love to go find things in the Goodwill bin and find its partners, its lost family. But that's just me. And all of this is to say we all have quirks. We all have things we seek to help soothe us. And they seem very small and subtle, but we need to pay attention to what we can grab onto in the moment, and even out of the moment. So times that are stressful for me, I'm always going to grab my journal and have a warm cup of coffee or tea. That something warm to drink always helps me to regulate. Yes, Angela says, I love to organize things. Totally. Yes, for her visually, that's what brings her a sense of calmness or being settled. All right, so number 3, focus on the facts and your child's strengths. So whenever we are tempted to catastrophize, so maybe for Jimmy, I heard this one, I heard a friend of his say one time, I'm not inviting Jimmy to my birthday party because he's mean sometimes. And I took that and I ran with it and I made it to mean he's never going to have any friends. Jimmy was 4 at the time, and how silly was that of me to make that projection? He was still learning. He was still learning how to regulate himself. He was still learning social interactions with his peers. It was his first time at school. And so something we have to really work on is to shift. Instead of looking at our kids' limitations and needs, look at their strengths. Jimmy is one of the most compassionate kids I know. All of our kids are. They have that sensitivity about them, that intuition where it could be a challenge for them, but it can also be a strength for them. So notice those and then focus on the facts. Does that really mean that this is going to be something negative down the line? So just neutralize those statements for yourself. And then number 4, to safeguard against micromanaging, using collaboration. So collaboration means we're working with our kids, not against them. It's us working together versus me versus you. And part of that means we're using curiosity to identify the problem. So last week, I talked to you guys about Jimmy and I going on the observation tower in Hot Springs, where it's 215 feet high. And when I pulled up to the parking lot, he says, "No way, I'm not going up there." And my instinct, I was tempted to say, "Yes, we're going up here," because we had a friend with us and made the time to go. But when I slowed down and got curious, and then even in the moment when I didn't know why he was refusing so adamantly, I was being playful and curious and said, "Let's just go to the gift shop at the bottom and see what they have." And once I got there, and step by step, we took these really small baby steps towards the elevator. And once he saw the elevator, he said, "Oh, we're going up the elevator, not climbing up the stairs." And so being curious lets us identify the problem at some point. And if not, then we need to always fall back on our kid is doing the best they can. They want to please us. And there is a mismatch or unrealistic expectation for them somewhere. And so when in good faith we can look at our kids that way, then we will always be able to work more collaboratively with them to problem solve. So again, playfulness, curiosity is sort of the theme of our course here. And then some of these smaller steps for scaffolding to help our kids problem solve are forward chaining or backward chaining. So backward chaining is my personal favorite because we can do that very last step together and then they have an immediate win. So I use the example of cleaning a room often because that's our issue. So instead of saying clean your room, I'll go in there, I'll do all of it except for his little Lego pile. And I'll say, "Okay, we're gonna do this one together." And then he'll put it away. We get it done in 5 minutes, and then it is an immediate praise. "Thank you for cleaning your room. You did it." And actually, we have made progress where now we're backward chaining. We're doing the step before that. So adding more of a challenge. Instead of just the Lego pile, we're also cleaning the table next to it. So, hey, we're going to get your Legos picked up, and then we're going to put away the stuff on the table here. So basically, you're working backwards to do each step before that as you build success. So it's all about building competency and self-esteem with them and helping them see that they're capable. Now, forward chaining would be you would just have your child do the first step. So he would go in there, pick something off the ground, whatever, and then I would give him that praise and I would do the rest of the cleaning for him. Which leads to my the next step here with scaffolding, breaking down tasks and making it small. So for kids with executive function delays, everything looks like that 215 foot tower that I was talking about that Jimmy thought we were going to climb. So figuratively speaking, it looks very daunting and overwhelming. But when we can create those tiny small steps and ask them to do just that one step, for example, going to the gift shop, after that, walking up to the elevator, those were all ways that I broke down those tasks to make it doable for him. Next thing you can do is make a list of action steps together. So the example I want to use here is for Jimmy, teaching him how to apologize. We need to explicitly teach our kids how to do things so that they have those tools in their tool belt. We're not telling them what to do, we're teaching them the how. So with Jimmy, when he was more aggressive with Caleb, we did not put more shame on him by saying, "Why did you do that?" or "You hurt Caleb." But we would notice. So using that notice, name, nurture concept, we would notice, "Hey, your hand just hit Caleb. He's crying now." And then nurturing with some time, like there's space, we're pacing it, there's time in between. And then later on, "I wonder what you can do to make it right with him." And we would plan out together. I would give him one idea, he would give me some ideas. And the last time we did that, it was so funny. He said, "I could make him a peanut butter jelly sandwich." And I was like, "It's unconventional, but sure." So he made him a sandwich, brought it upstairs and gave it to him. And Caleb looked at it and said, I don't want this. And Caleb and Jimmy set it down and said, okay, when you're ready, it's there. But basically, we're not telling them how to do things the way we think it should be done, but we're giving them opportunities to come up with their own ideas too. And this is how we build insight, creative problem solving, and a sense of, again, self-efficacy, self-esteem. Same with homework. Make a list of ways that you can help support your child in getting their homework done. Maybe they can list out certain times of the day. It would be easier before or after a snack or going out to play. Some kids, myself, I used to come home and want to do homework right away and get it over with. Some kids need a break first and then homework. So collaboratively problem solving what that might look like for your child or with your child. And then something else we talked about in module 4, on Sundays, have a weekly plan, a weekly check-in, 5 or 10 minutes. Hey, this is what the week looks like. How do you think this might look like for us to get these done, whether it's homework or extracurricular activities? So a phrase for this is prime the pump. You want to prime the pump, let your child anticipate what's coming up. Anytime you can give them a heads up on something that's coming up, then they will be able to meet that expectation more effectively instead of being surprised, because a lot of our kids are inflexible. They can be rigid, very black and white. If they can anticipate something, then they're able to better show up for it. And at the same time, sometimes things come up that we're not expecting, and you can also prime the pump there and say, hey, I know sometimes things you can have kind of preemptively talk to them about that. Hey, if this doesn't happen, I wonder how we'll handle it. Or you might say, this is what I hope to do this week. And if something comes up, we'll figure it out. But kind of using that language that builds in space also. Like for me, anytime it seemed like that we had a birthday party planned or a friend's birthday party, and I told them about it, 9 times out of 10, one of us would get sick and we couldn't go. The party would be canceled for one reason or another. And so building in that language, I hope for us to be able to do this. And then also trusting that if disappointment comes for them, that they can handle it, but supporting them through it. And then the 5th one is using effective praise, which I talked about before. Jimmy with the peanut butter sandwich to apologize to Caleb. I praised him for it. Hey, you found a way to care for Caleb and make it right for hitting. Thank you for giving him a sandwich or making him a sandwich. That was really thoughtful. So anytime you can effectively praise what they're doing right, then that can do wonders for them, for their self-esteem. And then lastly, 6, reset and restore. So anytime you find yourself micromanaging, pause right away and make that concrete for yourself and your child. So what I mean by reset and restore is make it right, apologize, and notice for your child, you are totally capable of doing this yourself. I'm sorry for taking over. I'm sorry for taking control. And that puts the ball back in their court and lets them know that they are capable. And also we're modeling, we make mistakes too. We need to apologize as well. So a lot of things you're modeling there, how to apologize, when to apologize, and also modeling they are capable. So in all of this, we are teaching them the same thing we are doing for ourselves.
I'll give a quick win. Yesterday, so last night for dinner, Hannah said, Mommy, can we do a picnic outside? And I was like, oh, I really don't feel like it. It's hot outside. I don't want to have to drag the little, kids' table and chairs outside, but I ended up doing it, and we ended up having a really great dinner. And I didn't have to chase anyone with a spoon or fork, and Hannah happily ate her dinner. And I did make a pretty good dinner, I guess I'll have to admit. And so we enjoyed a dinner where it was peaceful, calm, and very sweet. We all enjoyed it.
Yay, I love it. Perfect example of using playfulness. So you let her you followed her lead. She had a good idea, you followed it. You let her make an empowered decision. And then, yeah, ended up being a very good time for you all. Great way to connect. And again, I will say like novelty is very helpful in creating just alternative, what am I trying to say here? Creative problem solving for her. So for all of our kids, but for her, she wanted to eat somewhere different and it was fun. She enjoyed her meal more. So yeah, um, Angela, you said we also have a lot of food issues. It makes me wonder if control might be part of all this too. Yeah, anxiety and control are two sides of the same coin. Um, and for our kids who, gosh, food intake can be a big source of need for control. There can be a big need for control there. I would say the more playful you can be with food or dinner time, the more sense of safety they'll have. So a lot of times when we're forcing or we're very rigid, then that can create more anxiety. So what I've heard is you as the parent decide what and when, so what they'll eat and when, so dinner time, and then they determine um, how much and then what exactly they decide to put in their mouth. So how much they'll eat and then what they decide to put in their mouth. For us, some playful ways that have really helped us, decrease food anxieties and then increase uh, food intake is using a variety of foods. So we start small, like with pasta. They for a while only like penne pasta, and then we introduce different shapes, spirals. Um, gosh, I don't even know all the different names for it, but there would be alphabet letter pastas that we would find, and then we might try different colored ones. Like there were some that were colored with orange juice, and so you're making these small incremental steps outside of their comfort zone, what they're used to, and building flexibility there. And then with food, as as frustrating as it is when you make certain things and healthy things and then they won't touch it, I have to remind myself it's about exposure and consistency. So I don't always put it on their plates, but I will put it near their plates. And we always ask, well, what do you choose? Do you choose to smell it or lick it? Do you want to touch it to your face or your lips? So building in those playful choices also. So you're leading them with certainty that they can touch it or smell it. And then you're also giving them the empowerment, the choice to decide how they want to interact with that food. So with Richie, we did an activity where we wrapped up different snacks and then he got to unwrap and taste each one and see what he liked. So that was a playful way of exposing him to different types of those snacks. So again, any kind of creative playfulness you can add to it will help. Sometimes we've even had dinner under the table instead of on top of the table. Because for a while, our kids would not stay at the table for more than 5 minutes. And so we did a picnic under the table and ate there. And sometimes we did a picnic uh, at the coffee table in the living room. And that was fun too. So again, novelty, playfulness, all of that creates a sense of safety. I will also say another thing that's helped a lot with food is looking at food cookbooks for kids. So the boys had found a Pokemon cookbook one time, and it was so cute. It had different Pokemon characters, or sort of a what do you call it? Yeah, it had the characters and it had the food that sort of was like the inspiration there. For the character was inspiration for the food, and so that helped them to try different foods. Cookbooks, cooking, even with the same food, sometimes I will find that the same foods that they normally don't like, if I make a fun plate out of it, maybe a silly face or some kind of artwork on their plate, then they'll engage more with it. They might eat a little bit more than they did if I had just plopped it on their plate. So, well. I appreciate you guys joining. And I appreciate you guys sharing your questions and wins. Keep looking at the small things you guys can celebrate with your kids. That makes a really big difference. Angel, I know you've been sharing a lot with me and I love it. Holly mentioned last week that her son had a situation, and instead of the normal however long meltdown, it was only 5 minutes. And that was a huge win. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions or anything else to share, we can wrap up and meet again next week.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Angela.